Hey, everybody. It is Thursday. First up, we're going to break down this crazy FTX news. Sam Bankman-Fried, as you know, has been in some hot water the last 3 or 4 days. We've been talking about it every day here on This Week in Startups. Well, he just did a Twitter thread for the ages. The Wall Street Journal also reporting that SBF told investors that Alameda Research, which is FTX's sister company, if you've been following this craziness, was lent $10 billion in customer funds, commingling, really bad, red flags everywhere. And Sequoia posted a note about their loss with FTX. They're writing it down to zero, but it's in a fund that's made billions of dollars. So really a lot of transparency in a really interesting moment where Sequoia shared a note to their LPs, something that venture firms never do. And of course, we're going to talk about streaming because it's This Week in Streaming every Thursday here on This Week in Startups. Lon Harris is back. We're going to talk about Disney earnings and a lot of ideas I have, and Molly as well, for a Disney super app. What would that look like if Disney's app did everything? Netflix is getting into sports, and the greatest Disney Plus show ever is Andor. If you aren't watching it, we're going to break down why and why you need, even if you hate Star Wars or you've never watched Star Wars, this is the best entry point ever to Star Wars. Of course, I always ask Lon at the end of the show, what should we watch this weekend? And he has two amazing recommendations. One of them is for kids of the 80s, and the other one, if you loved Boardwalk Empire, Rocky, or The Sopranos, he's got a second recommendation that I am going to watch tonight. Stick with us. It's going to be a great show.
This Week in Startups is brought to you by Vanta. Compliance and security shouldn't be a deal breaker for startups to win new business. Vanta makes it easy for companies to get a SOC 2 report fast. Twist listeners can get $1,000 off for a limited time at vanta.com/twist. Mayfair helps venture-backed companies earn 4% on their idle cash automatically. No market risk, no switching banks required. Go to getmayfair.com/twist to get started today. And House of Macadamias is the next big health trend. Get 20% off your first purchase at houseofmacadamias.com/twist by using code TWIST20.
All right, Molly, I hate to make this Week in Crypto every day, but I just interviewed SBF 2 or 3 weeks ago at that private event with like 250, 200 people. Man, I got to get that tape.
I know.
Anyway.
Were you sold? Were you all, I love this founder?
No, I was talking just sort of about regulation with him. And so without getting too much into detail, because I agreed to keep it off the record, but you know, we were talking about regulation. I asked him a lot of tough questions, but I didn't get the sense that the house of cards was about to crumble. So,
yeah. So what really today is, honestly, is This Week in Amazing Stories, because we're going to talk about this for a minute and then we got Lon coming up. But either way, this is like the drama that is going to, I mean, call Adam Newman. Like I want him to play SBF in a weird way. But here's the latest that has developed even since we did our emergency pod and yesterday. This morning, SBF took to Twitter to apologize for the collapse of his crypto empire. First, he said, "I'm sorry. That's the biggest thing. I effed up and I should have done better." He posted a long Twitter thread following up his apology by tweeting about, for example, his lack of communication. He said, "My hands were tied during the duration of the possible Binance deal." But then he also, in one other tweet, was like, "I was too busy to talk to anybody about what was going on."
What?
Which is tough. Man. I know. Like, honestly, this is I mean, the CEO's job is to communicate.
This is manic.
Like, it's just, well, and it's getting distracted by like all the wrong things as opposed to here's what's happening in our business. Meanwhile, he assured FTX international users, remember that we're talking about FTX.com.
Yes, 2 different companies.
He assured them that FTX International is fine. I'm sure that's true.
Everything's fine.
Says there's more than enough assets to cover deposits. But he said FTX International does not have liquidity for delivery. He went on to peg some of the reasons for this complete collapse on, quote, poor internal labeling of bank-related accounts.
Oh, they put the wrong labels on. This is customer accounts. This is the operating budget.
I guess so, like this one is the mark, but this one is Fidelity. But they forgot to put a little post-it note on that or something. Unclear what that means. He then said he thought he was, because of this poor labeling, they were substantially off on their sense of users' margins. I thought it was way lower. said SBF. He thought that FTX's margins, that the leverage was zero, that they hadn't loaned out any money, I guess, that USD liquidity was ready to deliver. He thought that was 24x the average daily withdrawals, but the actual numbers were that they were 1.7x leveraged and had 0.8x Sunday's withdrawals. He also pointed out that there were $5 billion of withdrawals on Sunday, which is where we should note that on Monday, he then tweeted, everything is fine and we have more than enough liquidity.
But those people were able to withdraw. So there, as much of a house of cards or shenanigans or mistakes are occurring here, some number of people were able to get their money out. So
I guess so before, and then they froze withdrawals for a while.
Yes.
But yeah, some number of people were definitely able to get their money out. It seems like. Now he says, and here are the real headlines, right? He's like, they're trying to raise money. They have some letters of insignificance to raise money to try to pay people back.
Okay.
And that Alameda Research will be winding down trading. And that at some point, he said he might have more to say about a particular sparring partner, so to speak. But says that for now, all I'll say is, well played, you won.
Oh, he's referring to CZ, who was going to buy it, did the rug pull, liquidated his position, all this stuff. And yeah, CZ just said he's not buying this thing yesterday. That was part of that was 2 days ago. The Wednesday he said he's not going to buy it. Anyway, after diligence, he said he's not going to buy it.
Wednesday.
Yeah. The most interesting thing about all this is, and this is always like really good psychological human thing, is that the people who are screwing up the most, Molly, they blame other people in some cases. They blame circumstance. And then they have these, what do they call that, a persecution complex? You know, you think of like frauds like Madoff or Theranos, Elizabeth Holmes, you know, like the world's against them. It's not true, whatever. So this is good that he is, in fact, owning this. That to me shows something that maybe this is, without knowing, obviously, but that maybe he did get caught under, you know, he got ahead of his skis kind of situation.
I mean, yes. I think like when judges, for example, look at things like this, they do sometimes want to see remorse. And so it would be wise to show remorse when, for example, the Wall Street Journal reports that Alameda Research borrowed, which I think is a loose term, $10 billion in customer deposits from FTX. So, or as one of our noties puts it, they sold $10 billion in customer deposits to send to their hedge fund. According to this investor, FTX had $16 billion in customer assets and lent out over 50% of them to Alameda. SBF described the decision as a, quote, poor judgment call. Alameda not only collected fees from the exchange, they pursued riskier bets to bump up revenue, including arbitrage, which is, you know, buying coins cheaper on one exchange than selling it on another for a higher price, market making, offering to buy and sell assets on crypto exchanges throughout the day and collecting a spread between the buying and the selling price. And then, of course, yield farming, which is the thing that he himself described as almost exactly a Ponzi scheme, which is investing in tokens. Matt Levine described
it and he concurred. It's, I think, how he explained it.
Exactly. He described it and Matt Levine was like, you've described a Ponzi scheme word for word. And he was like, yeah, that's fair. That sounds right.
Fair enough. Yeah.
That was in investing in tokens that pay interest rate like rewards. And this is like the kind of thing that you were talking about, which is like, you're saying this has 18% yield. Where the hell is who's paying the 18%?
Just to take you inside a gambler's mindset, which he has, because I've seen this. Gamblers always think, especially if they're good at what they do, that they can thread the needle and they can come back, right? So they let it ride, right? And they always think they can get whole, and because they probably have so many times. So when you're really good at gambling, I know some people who are like really pro gamblers, and they can always figure out a way to pull out a win. They eke out a win somehow if they put their nose to the grindstone enough. And I think he's that kind of guy. And I remember when I was in LA, I'll obscurify this a bit, but let's just say somebody who had client funds and also made a lot of money was playing in high stakes poker games, from what I understand, unverified. And then he started losing. He started playing out of not his money, but out of his customers' money in their fund. So if this was a venture capital fund, in this case, it wasn't, but let's imagine it was.
Yeah.
It'd be like taking the venture money and then playing blackjack or poker with it. Now, if you in your mind, you're like, well, they're just bankrolling me, but I'm a winner. I'm a net winner. So it doesn't matter where I pull the funds from. I'll be able to put it back until you get a couple bad beats, and then you have no more bankroll, and then you can't come back. And this just seems like a lot of gambling going on. And it seems like SBF was really good at finding edge. And this is something that gamblers go through. They find edge. They find a casino where, the odds are a little bit better. They find a weak poker game where there's 2 or 3 bad players who are wells. They find edge wherever they can.
Yeah.
When they think they find an edge, they try to exploit it. But you could also get caught and, just lose 6 or 7 coin tosses in a row, even though statistically it's hard for that to happen. It's also inevitable that that happens. And
right.
if you happen to run into it, it could be bad. Listen, founders, very important. If you're in SaaS or you're in services and you store customer data in the cloud, you need to be SOC 2 compliant yesterday. And you might be hearing this and you may not even know what SOC 2 is, or maybe you heard about it. You're behind the 8 ball. Let's get this solved today. This week, I want you to be compliant from a third party so that you can close big deals. Do it now. Do not look like a dope when you try to close a deal and they're like, do you have SOC 2? And you're like, that long pause, that's going to be the sound of them going to your competitor. Use Vanta, which makes it incredibly easy to get and renew your SOC 2. On average, Vanta customers are SOC 2 compliant in just 2 to 4 weeks, and compare that to 3 to 5 months without Vanta. And they partner with over 24 audit firms who have been trained to file SOC 2 reports directly within Vanta. I was able to invest in Vanta. It's a great company. A bunch of my portfolio founders have used Vanta. They've had amazing experiences. They give it their highest rating. And let's just be clear here. If you're not SOC 2 compliant, you can't close major customers. It's that simple. It's one of the first things they're going to ask for. Here's the best part of this ad read. Vanta loves This Week in Startups. They want to support founders, and they want to support founders early. And they don't want you to break the bank. So they're going to give you $1,000 off. Think about that. Get $1,000 off at vanta.com/twist. vanta.com/TWIST. $1,000 off vanta.com/twist. Get your SOC 2 now. The thing that I found most interesting was Sequoia, which I guess was getting dunked on because they put money in and they were saying, oh, there was no diligence, yada, yada. We were speculating about that as well. Like, where's the diligence here? By all these venture investors, they put out a note. Did you see that? Here it is.
I see the note. I was not on that because I was still looking at, I was still going to point out that the feds seem to have been on to the gambling even before.
Is that right? Oh, unpack that
Bloomberg
first,
reported that the SEC and the CFTC were looking into FTX months ago, investigating mishandling on customer funds, check, and FTX's relationship with Alameda Research, check. Both of those things. FTX International might fall outside of the regulator's jurisdiction, but the SEC and the CFTC are looking into how FTX and FTX US are structured and how related they might be. So
this is where compliance comes in. You need to have.
Speaking of Sequoia, like this is a governance, right? So, like you've described the gambler's mindset. The question is, who was in place? Clearly, no one at FTX to make sure that this didn't become a casino and stayed a business.
If they had an outside accounting firm, and there was a board of directors, and there was a compliance officer, all that stuff could have resulted in some financial accounting that would be brought to the board, Molly.
Yep.
At once. And it wouldn't be brought from the CEO. It would be brought from the external accounting firm that would say, hey, here's, hey, we just did this audit, we did this review, or here's October's numbers, here's the cash in the bank. And those kind of accounting folks would have just checked everything. And you might have gotten an early signal here, right?
Yep. But yeah, so here's what Sequoia said. Sequoia Capital had previously invested in FTX. There has been some dunking about the internal Slack messages that were apparently sent during one of SBF's pitches to them, which do sound a little,
Oh, there were.
They sound a little groupthink. The I love this founder. That's why I made that comment, because there were the I love this founder comments. Like, that here he was talking about how he wanted to make FTX into an everything app, and that there was a lot of behind the scenes like, we love him. This is so great. I'm a 10 out of 10. And then later, he turned out he was playing League of Legends the whole time that he pitched people. I don't know, whatever. I totally will probably never understand the obsession with the everything app, but that's separate. Here's the email Sequoia Capital sent to their LPs and then tweeted, put this out publicly. They said, we're reaching out to share an update based on our investment in FTX. In recent days, a liquidity crunch has created solvency risk for FTX. The full nature and extent of this risk is not known at this time. Based on our current understanding, we are marking our investment down to 0. Sequoia Capital's exposure to FTX is limited. We own FTX.com and FTX US in one private fund, Global Growth Fund 3. FTX is not a top 10 position in the fund, and our $150 million cost basis accounts for less than 3% of the committed capital of the fund. The $150 million loss is offset by $7.5 billion in realized and unrealized gains in the same fund. So the fund, they note somewhat dryly, remains in good shape.
So, just so people understand, when you see some of these big bets, what they're saying here essentially is, yeah, you're going to have zeros. You're going to have outliers that overperform, and then we're going to have ones that disappoint. That is the nature of business. This is a great note, by the way.
Yeah.
Because what happens is when you are a fund manager, I'm sorry, I missed what you said.
Oh, I just was saying it's math, right? It's great in the sense that it's great communication.
Perfect.
It's super direct and super straightforward. And also it's got like
math
that makes you feel better because you're like, oh, okay, these numbers are fine.
But here's the underlying issue. It's kind of almost like a VC Sunday school. When you're an LP in a fund, and I'm going to presume in the coming years, as your career goes on, you'll take advantage of perhaps opportunities that come up for you to LP other people's funds. Because now that you're in the game, people might offer you if they want to do you a favor. And so when you're an LP in a fund, some people want to know, what are all the names in the fund? And so you get a yearly audit. And it says, here's everything that the fund invested in. And then sometimes it has like weird names that are like some not an LLC, but some company name that doesn't match the actual name of the company, right? Because, they invested when the company was being formed or whatever. And you're trying to decode, like, what did they invest in? And then sometimes you find out, oh my God, this fund has Instagram in it, or this fund has, FTX in it. And then you read the headline. So you're an LP, right? And you're seeing this outside signal. It's like, oh my God, I got a winning ticket. And your winning ticket is in this group of tickets that's in a fund. And then there's like, what is the fund's value? And then there's, what does the fund realize, right? So you have like, here's what we're marking the fund at. Here's what it's worth on paper. And then here's the cash or equities we've distributed to date. And as a fund LP, what I like to do is just not start looking at all the tickets, right? All the bets that were made. I'm like, this is a road to getting distracted. I put a fund manager in charge of making 30, 40, 50 bets in a fund. Let me know how it all works out. What some people do is they like the rush of getting in there and like tracking all the individual companies. And that's what I believe a note like this is. There's probably people who have been looking at their fund statements every year and they see, holy cow, that fund has, pick the highest profile company, that fund has, Airbnb in it.
It would be very reasonable for an LP to be worried at this.
Of course. But that's not what you're doing. You're not doing
thing to do.
You're betting on a mutual fund, essentially, a collection of assets.
Yeah.
So this is not to the professional LP who looks at it and says, yeah, we put in 100 million. We hope to get 300 million. This is to the person who put in and I don't know if they have a person with $1 million there, but this is the person who's like, oh my God, I'm sweating, which is a gambling term. I'm sweating every bet. There are people who gamble who want to like watch every play of the game. There are other people who gamble. Let me know after the game's over, Sunday night, how I did on my tickets. I picked a bunch of football games on Sunday. Tell me how I did at the end of the day. Other people want to sit there for 12 hours and grind their teeth. This is for the teeth grinders who are sweating every bet. I think it's very smart. And then did they tweeted the letter knowing it would get leaked from their Twitter account, which is a superpower move.
Oh, because they knew the letter would get leaked. They just went ahead and tweeted it. Yeah, which was also super smart.
Which is like a super flex. They're like, yeah, we lost 150 million in a fund that's up 7.5 billion or whatever it is.
That is seriously
such a power move.
It's a beefcake.
Okay, and next up, Lon Harris.
That's right. Talking about Disney earnings, Netflix getting into sports, and Andor. Here he is.
There we go. Inflation and rates are two of the hottest topics right now. We talk about them every single time we do an all-in podcast, and we talk about them increasingly here on This Week in Startups. Most founders don't know how to leverage this inflation and these increasing rates. Well, let me tell you how. Mayfair, Mayfair. Mayfair helps you earn 4% yield on your idle cash automatically. It takes 10 minutes to set up, works alongside all your existing banks, and it's fully automated. Think about it. You got 10 million in reserves sitting around. You get an extra 400K. What do you do with that? You know what you do with it? You take your team on 4 offsites a year. You treat them well. You know what you do with it? You put it towards the bottom line. You make your business look even more impressive. I had this happen to me 15, 20 years ago. I was sitting on almost $20 million, but there was no service for this. So I had to do a lot of work. Now you got Mayfair. They do all the work for you. They're going to help you create that high yield cash account powered by Stripe. Your money is moved securely. Nothing to worry about. Funds are held at Evolve Bank and Trust, a bank that powers companies like Mercury and Wise. Okay, so you think you can feel pretty safe here, right? Connect your new account to your existing bank, then Mayfair automatically puts your excess cash to work in a high-yield cash account. And when you need the cash, you can move it back anytime, no hassle. Twist listeners get the $5 million minimum balance requirement waived for life, so you can start experimenting with this, even if you only got a $500,000. Go to getmayfair.com/twist to start earning like a Fortune 500 company today. GETMAYFAIR.com/twist. Getmayfair.com/twist. Hey, Molly, it's Thursday, and you know what Thursday means.
The Lonster.
I'm here.
Lon Harris is here. So much to talk about.
Yeah.
Disney's earnings came out, I know that. But most importantly, Andor had its 10th episode.
Only 2 left this season.
You know what? If this was the last episode, I would have been Chef's Kiss at 10.
Yeah. I feel
like
no
I'm
complaints,
House Money. I'm playing with the house's money.
We got the conclusion of this 3-episode prison arc written by Beau Willimon, the creator of House of Cards, by the way, who knocked this out of the park. I thought.
Wow.
This 3-episode arc where he's been in the prison has been just completely stellar, I think.
I am not caught up. Feel free to spoil away because I will be, but I just watched the episode where he got sent to the prison and I was like, whoa, plot twist.
So we're only a few. So you met Andy Serkis and his little table of guys. Yeah. Oh no, you just saw him get sent to the prison. Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That's next.
The prison itself is extraordinary. The show had 0 lightsabers.
Yeah.
To date.
Mostly politics.
No force chokes. Most episodes didn't even have a blaster.
Is there is there force even?
No force.
Nobody's using the force.
Nobody's using the force. No Jedi has showed up. And it is as taut and as intense as any of the most intense moments of Star Wars. It's A+.
Yeah,
plus.
It's the best. I think it's the best Disney Plus anything so far. Best show, it's the best thing I've seen so far that was made for Disney Plus, I think.
Mandalorian, I think we forget how good that was, but yes, I would say.
I really like Mandalorian, but this is every other Star Wars thing, shows, films, all of them. They're very different. They'll explore different genres, but they always try to keep that core, that tone, that vibe, that George Lucas throwback retro adventure serial. It's like Flash Gordon and all the pop art stuff that George Lucas grew up with, and like that's what Star Wars is sort of honoring. And I love that this is in a recognizably Star Wars world, but it doesn't have that tone. This is 70s conspiracy, thriller. This is spy movie. Like, this is just going after a totally different tone. It's still in the Star Wars, timeline, but it just doesn't. It's the first time ever that it doesn't feel like Star Wars. And it's so refreshing. I love that.
I feel like it also might be the most stylish Star Wars anything that I have ever seen. Like, I am obsessed with the outfits in the show. I tweeted last night, I was like, Andor has made me realize that I need a lot more dramatic hoods in my life. Like, a lot. Capes. I need that red belted quilted coat with the big hood and the knee-high boots immediately. Right. I need everything Mon Mothma has ever worn.
Yeah.
Like, the style in this show, I know that seems like a silly thing to focus on, but every time I watch it, I'm just like,
you are not incorrect.
It's beautiful.
Last night, my wife was like, hold on, I want to see that shot again. It's this amazing shot of Mon Mothma in her apartment, which we find out is an apartment that is somehow like a national treasure. I don't know if you caught that, Lon, that she's not allowed to make changes to it.
Right. So because she's living in the Chandrillan embassy. She's the Chandrillan senator. So I guess she's living in their government building on Coruscant.
So, Molly, it's just such a tiny little throwaway line where she says, I can't make many changes to it, but because the person is like, my God, this is so gorgeous. And she lives in, a space that is inspiring, but classic, looks like it's 1,000 years old. And there's just a shot of her through like a couple of the doorways with these geometric shapes of the doorways that is just next level. And I think, Lon, you really hit on this.
Beautiful.
It does have a 70s thriller. It does have a 60s to 70s architecture, Planet of the Apes, when they had them return back to, the movie where they come back to the United States in modern times. And that was actually filmed, I think, at the Beverly Mall, whatever that mall is, Century City Mall, which was like
what is that? Is that Conquest for the Planet?
I think it's Conquest.
Yeah.
So the really interesting thing here is, I think you nailed it. Whoever is driving this, or different aspects of it, did a heist film. They did a psychological thriller like 3 Days of the Condor.
Yeah.
They've done a prison escape from Alcatraz type send-up.
Yeah.
This is 5 or 6 different homages, it feels like, are coming to roost of perhaps the greatest era of cinema, 60s and 70s. For you and I, the avant-garde 60s and 70s, the Easy Rider era of films, The Godfather.
The way they're also layering in, it's incredible. So smart. We Star Wars, it's always played, it's very like black and white, good versus evil. That's by design. That's the kind of story. It's a space opera. That's the kind of storytelling it is. But this is, I think he's trying to bring a little bit more of a sense of like the real history of revolutions and to make it a little bit more like gray, like especially this past week, which I won't spoil, but there's like part of the theme of everybody's compromised, like the early rebels have to adopt the tactics of the Imperials in order to fight them. And so everybody's kind of getting plunged into this morally gray kind of morass. And there's an episode even, and you might have seen this already, Molly, I'm not sure, where they're back on Ferrix, where Andor's home planet, and you basically recreate the Boston Massacre, this very famous incident from the American Revolution, where there's stormtroopers marching on this side, and there's protesters on this side, and they're throwing rocks or whatever, and these guys end up in the middle trying to break it up, and then the stormtroopers turn around and they open fire, and it's a tableau. Like, there's a really famous painting of the Boston Massacre that they're obviously recreating, and I mean, to put that level of thought into the Star Wars revolution, like not a real historical rebellion, but we're kind of treating it like it is and thinking about all the little steps that would lead to it is so smart. Really cool.
It's been great, but peripheral. Oh yeah, go ahead.
I have
I like peripheral too. There it is. Yeah.
There it is. Oh my God, it does look just like that.
Yeah, and they didn't actually show the blasters go off. So
no, I think but they did think about,
which is even more upsetting. And
I think they did think about the architecture of that, like the way that famous painting sort of captures it. They recreated it pretty clearly.
Yeah. But this is my confession. I went ahead and I watched 3 episodes ahead of my wife. I'm not proud of it, but I did it, and I apologize. But I told her, it's so effing good. I had to get ready for the show, and I watched it again. And this is when I know something is clicking in this oversaturated golden era of content production and the variability that comes with that. I paid more attention on the second viewing than the first. The first viewing, you have your phone, you get a little distracted here or there, a little Twitter comes in, text message, signal, whatever, you get a little distracted. The second time, I just turned my phone off. And I gave it 100% of my attention, because when I was giving it partial attention, when I watched it on my own, 80, 90%, like I normally do with these shows, a little distracted, I wanted to savor it more. It was like, for me, going back to a great restaurant and saying, you know what, I had such a profound experience with these 2 or 3 dishes. I'm having them again, but I'm going to eat the food slower. And that's what I did. This show is tremendous. The only other time I've watched something twice on Disney Plus to date was I did take the girls to Mandalorian a second time because they loved it so much. And kudos to everybody over there. It's just incredible. If you haven't seen Andor yet, I will say, even if you've never watched a Star Wars film, start here. I think that might be the legacy of this show, Lon, is start here.
Well, Andor, you don't have to. You don't have to watch any other thing in the Star Wars universe, honestly. Like, this is a standalone. It's kind of like Logan, the film. Like, you don't have to care about X-Men or comic book movies or whatever. You could watch Logan and be like, holy crap, that is a phenomenal movie and story. And that's kind of how I feel about Andor. It's almost like decoupled, could be completely decoupled from the Star Wars universe in a way, because it's just like a fantastic show.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking too. You almost don't, and that's what's another thing that's so great about it is it's not about elbowing you in the ribs and remembering that guy and that Easter egg and who's that guy from that thing. And there's room for that. I'm not saying I never want to do that or never want a show like that. But it's so nice to not ever be expected to do that. There's no guys you need to remember. They have had a few random references to the original Star Wars films, like real deep cut stuff just for there's the guy who runs the Imperial Security Bureau, the ISB, not the guy we're used to seeing, the old guy who runs those meetings, but his boss.
Yeah, the mustache guy.
That's a character from the original Star Wars films that they've kind of retconned, like a random
He was around the
officer.
table. Right. He was around the table during the debate where Vader choked somebody.
That's exactly right.
Yes.
He's a guy that is in A New Hope, but they've just retconned him that he was in the ISB in this era. So there are those things there if you are a big enough fan to catch them, but you don't need to. It completely works on its own.
It's not over fan service. I'm a little exhausted from watching certain shows and having to say Easter eggs, get the list, and then find the screenshots. So I just watched Man of Steel with my daughters, my 6-year-olds. They loved it. Took 3 sittings.
I like
not a bad film. I think
Man of Steel is a pretty good movie. Personally.
Pretty good film. And I just had to go online to find the 18 Easter eggs in there, of which only 2 or 3 of them were relevant. But congratulations to the Disney Corporation.
Yeah.
All right, listen. My favorite nut, macadamia. My favorite chocolate, dark. Now I have in my office a nice box of macadamia bars and dark chocolate, and I got dark chocolate covered macadamias. A perfect snack for J-Cal. I get a nice cup of black coffee, and I treat myself. And that company is House of Macadamias. The founders of this company, Brandon and Carmen, they've been listeners to this podcast, This Week in Startups, for a long time, and they told me, I kid you not, that they started their company after they were listening to This Week in Startups, and they read my book, Angel. They used the returns on their first angel investment, I kid you not, the story is amazing, to start this macadamia nut business. And look, all nuts are not created equal. Here are the health benefits of macadamias compared to peanuts, almonds, cashews, and walnuts. Macadamias are high in omega-7s, which have been linked to fat loss, which I need, right? And natural collagen, so you look nice. They also have more healthy fats and less carbs. Every product is vegan, keto, and paleo. Since you probably have 2 or 3 of those on your list. Take it from me. I eat these macadamias all the time, every week. 2 or 3 times a week I eat them. They're delicious. It's my little treat for myself. And again, for me, it's dark chocolate. For you, it might be one of the other flavors. They got spicy nuts. They got sweet nuts. They got everything. They got ones that are spicy and sweet. Here's what I want you to do. Go to houseofmacadamias.com/twist right now. Get 20% off by using the code TWIST20. That's code TWIST20 for 20% off at houseofmacadamias.com/twist. J Trading is back. Today, the stock market is surging again because inflation is apparently tempered a little bit, and we might be seeing some light around the corner, but it was all green today, Lon. I know that you've been wondering if I'm going broke or not. Apparently, I'm not going broke, folks. I'm still in the game.
Your Facebook trade apparently is up 15%. You made $7,000.
This is what I've learned, Lon.
Wow.
Yeah, but I'm on the mend here. I was down as much as 20+%, and I'm on the mend here.
Everybody.
Yeah, but I feel particularly good about my this in a sea of red. My absolute cutthroat Facebook trade, based strictly on Zuckerberg channeling his inner, Darth Maul, has paid off. But let's talk about my Disney. Let's talk about my Disney.
Let's talk about Disney. Yeah.
Let's talk about Disney. Okay.
Let's and how much it's spending on really, really good shows like Andor. So Disney reported fiscal Q4 and full year earnings for fiscal 2022. The stock was initially down about 13% on Wednesday due to missing revenue expectations. I would imagine that is not the case today. Q4 results, let's see, because they have this offset fiscal calendar, by the way, in case you're wondering how it's already Q4. Disney lives in the future. That revenue was $20.1 billion, up 9% year over year. That was a slight miss on expectations. Disney stock is up 2.5% today. Parks revenue grew about 36% year over year to $7.4 billion. So the COVID effect is clearly over in the parks. People are back. And then media and entertainment revenue fell about 3% year over year to $12.7 billion. Net income, $162 million, up 1% year over year, basically flat. Free cash flow was $1.37 billion. That number is down about 10% year over year, but still positive. Like, they have free cash flow of $1.3 billion.
All that matters is that they keep pulling the string on Disney Plus.
Yep.
They must they must invest in Disney Plus, and they must start selling merch from Disney Plus, which they have said they were going to do after I told them for a year on CNBC. I told them, Lon, years before they said they were going to do this. I said, imagine if, you could buy merch. They need to break the silos. There is one product. And I'm not saying I'm going to be a CEO of any large corporation at the moment. And I'm including that I am not going to become CEO of Disney. But for F's sake, I need to be the CEO of Disney.
Yeah.
Because here's what I do day one.
That Chapek guy sucks. Sorry.
Day one, bring me the head of Disney Plus, the head of Disney merch, the head of blah, blah, blah. Bring me all the heads. And I say, where do you live, Lon? And one guy's, I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
The other lady says, I'm over here. This other person says they're here. I say, great. You know where you live now? This is where you live. And I just point to the giant conference room. I said, nobody leaves the conference room until this product is one singular product. No more fiefdoms. I want one product. You log into Disney Plus, you buy your tickets to the park. You go to the park, you buy whatever lunch you want to buy in Disney Plus. Disney Plus is one uber super app. The end. We're done here. Make it work as one consumer experience. I want to open Disney Plus, and I want my daughters to see the top 10 best days to go to Disney based on how many people are going to be there. I want them to see the top 25 Marvel products that are coming, the limited edition, the sneakers, whatever. One product to unite them all. That's what needs to happen here. They'll get there. It's going to take 2 or 3 years.
Chapek has said this is the end goal, and he tends to talk about it not only in terms of everything you're saying, in terms of practical integration. Like I'm watching Moana on Disney Plus. Hey, do you want a Moana tee? I feel like that's obvious. But Chapek is talking about it even on the next level of integration, which would be the data. Like Disney Plus knows you went to Disneyland last month and that you went on Pirates of the Caribbean twice. So when you load up Disney Plus today, it's going to feature Pirates of the Caribbean on the front page and be like, hey, do you want this Jack Sparrow Funko? You love this ride. And so to not only have your experience all integrated, but Disney Plus is smarter about your Disney taste than you are, maybe.
Molly, give me your best Disney super app idea. Because maybe I put you on the board. What is your bet? Take a second to think it through, because Lon, building on yours, nobody leaves the room until this is fixed. I want a Disney in Disney Plus. Each child gets a login, right? My kids have logins. Mm-hmm. Whatever ride they went on with their Disney wristband or whatever.
Right. That's the idea is with the wristbands, they're tracking you all. It's Westworld. They're following you all the time through
Here we go. And so it says Marvel, Disney, Pixar, Star Wars, and the fifth one is parks. You click on parks. It shows how many times you've been to the parks, how many times you've been on each ride, which rides you haven't been on, and it shows your path through the park. In the pictures, Apple shows you the pictures of your life previously, and they're like, remember, you want to cry, Dad? And it starts showing me London's first trip to Disney and stuff like that, right? I start getting some of those. I want all that in the app. I want to be reminded of all the joy we had there, and then just show me the rides we did, what we didn't, go back, take another picture. Hey, here's a picture from when you went on Pirates. Take another picture with your family. And add it to your collection here. Everything in one. The one Disney super app. And every album. Listen to every song.
When you think about how that everything that gets integrated in that way then makes the core company smarter. I mean, that's really what they like, is that they can then see look at all these people not only watching Encanto, but buying the soundtrack, getting the... We need an Encanto parade at the park. It's that level of integration where every division is learning from every other division and making it better.
Now, see, this is where the three of us at the table, Molly, makes everything different.
Right.
So here we are in the Disney War Room. And Molly, now that we have all this data on Encanto, we say every first Tuesday, which happens to be the slowest day of, whatever, at Disney parks, Encanto Tuesdays. The parade, the food, everything goes Tuesday, Wednesdays to that theme. And you know who knows that? The people who watch Encanto more than 3 times and who sing the songs. Right. They get that when they open the app. Now we all get Andor. And they're going to have an Andor meet and greet. with the characters, and they're going to do a cosplay, and they're going to have Andor outfits, and we come on the Andor weekend. This is the stuff that would make Disney 10x.
Yeah.
And I own, as a shareholder, as a very influential shareholder, okay, I am just letting people know I'm not activist, I'm constructivist at this moment in time, but I will not stay constructive. I'm a constructivist. I think that's a word in the English language. I don't know. Hopefully that isn't some dark group of people from history.
I think constructivism is like a thing.
It is a thing. Please don't let it be some horrible thing where they massacre people in the world.
Mayday.
Constructivism
Let's do a little fact check on that. Constructivism
it's an educational theory that posits that individuals or learners don't acquire knowledge and understanding passively, but in a direct process of knowledge transmission. So there you go.
We're in the clear.
Yeah.
Good.
Dodge that
They didn't commit genocide, right? The constructivists didn't.
The constructivists
wipe out a continent.
There's really there's a community building play that could be built into that too. I will give you my one idea, and then I will go back to the revenue for Disney Plus specifically. But not only so, everything you said, I get to the park, I pull up the app based on my viewing history in the app. It has a map for me. It's like, you are going to enjoy this and this and this. Here's your personalized map, and here are other people in the park who share the same interests as you. You could opt into this, obviously, but you could literally have data feed meetups in the park. You could share pictures, like you could literally just make friends and be part of a community of people who are into all of the same things you are, based on Disney guiding your experience through the parks with information about what you have watched and purchased in the past.
I mean, it's also how they can start to think about and divvy up their own consumers. I mean, you were talking about Andor is a great example. If you're watching Andor, it probably leans towards you're older, you maybe have a little bit more disposable income, and you love Star Wars. Those are the people we need to promote the Star Wars cruises to, the higher end experiences. You know, the people watching Tales of the Jedi, they're probably younger. Those are probably more kids. They're the ones to promote video games to. But, you know, like, you could start to slice and dice the audience that way.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's go through real quickly some of the streaming metrics, because I want to talk about Netflix briefly. But this leads into that. So total Disney Plus subs were up 39% year over year to 164.2 million. Those people it's an average monthly revenue per user of $3.91. Disney Plus is on a $7.7 billion revenue run rate at its current size and price. Let's compare to Netflix, which currently has 223 million paid subs, growing at 4.5% year over year.
Okay.
And that's an about $11.84 average monthly revenue per user. Netflix is currently on a $31.7 billion revenue run rate at its current size and price because of pricing. So in August, you see, I think what you're starting to see in these numbers is a little bit of the impact, right, of Disney in August announcing a price hike for Disney Plus starting December 8th. Monthly will jump from $8 a month to $11 a month. I think they probably had a surge. I am like people who signed up real quick to get get grandfathered into this pricing.
Yep.
I don't know if you are grandfathered in, but monthly pricing will jump from $8 a month to $11. Annual will jump from $80 per year to $110 a year. And then they're going to offer this ad-supported tier for $8 a month. Its original price, which is a 37.5% price hike in both areas.
Let's go. Introductory pricing is just that. You pay for value. Here, the advertising tier is going to be insane. I'm just letting people know now. The ability to capture whatever number of people they get on the advertising tier is going to be extraordinary. And I think there are creative ideas they could use around consumption. Like, they could do a special where they say, hey, we're signing people up for $1. Let's say they start hitting that Netflix natural audience. Sign up for $1. Pay with Apple Pay, like super easy, double click, pay $1, and you get the summer free. But we got to you put your email address in, whatever. They can do all kinds of interesting things like that. Or say, you know what? This documentary series is very important, or Star Wars is having its 30th anniversary, whatever the 40th anniversary of the original film, right? 27, would that be? We're going to make Star Wars for free for the month. All Star Wars series free for the month. But you got to sign up. They can do all kinds of crazy stuff like that. That would be ad supported. Again, let's get around the table here. Who's our biggest advertiser? Olympics are coming up. Olympic advertising, great. We're going to make Disney.
Yeah.
Or this new Ford is coming out, family car, new minivan. The summer of the new Honda Odyssey. Disney brought to you by Honda Odyssey. For the summer for your kids. You can sign up and get 100 hours of watch whatever shows you want. And it just has the Honda Odyssey logo on the bottom right for the whole thing. It zips by, it tells you all the features.
Yeah.
Now, the entire country and your kids are obsessed with the Honda Odyssey because it's got 18 TVs. They turn left, Lon, they see a TV. They turn right, there's a TV. They look down, they fall asleep. There's a TV in their lap on the floor. Just TVs everywhere. So your kids are just super programmed. That's why I'm buying the stock. I'm not telling you to buy the stock, Molly, but
wait,
buy
so
the
you
stock.
redesigned both Disney and the Honda Odyssey in this conversation?
For sure. I bring
I lost track a little
Honda
bit.
Odyssey's coming to the war room.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting
in the
how...
Honda Odyssey is where I'm going to watch a hell of a lot of Netflix.
Exactly.
Let's
Well, I was
move
gonna
on
say,
to Netflix. We only have 2
too,
minutes.
they're also kind of adopting this philosophy of using the ad-supported tier as kind of both an introductory sales pitch and a way to bring in revenue. Like the Knives Out sequel, that's going to run ad-free, or they're going to have just a quick pre-roll ad to like induce you, like sign up for Netflix with ads. You don't even have to watch any ads and watch Knives Out too, and then that's how they're going to like lure in new people, I guess. So it's a similar kind of idea that they could start bespoke streams just to get people interested.
It feels like the battle is really on in streaming, so much so that Lon just dipped.
Yeah, Lon was like, these ideas are too heavy.
He's like, I'm
How
out.
about this? Let me run this up the flagpole. Let's see if Lon salutes. Take the She-Hulk episode. You do a bonus between season episode. Only available for the next 30 days. If you go buy a Happy Meal, you take a filet of fish is my choice. You take a picture of the QR code on your filet of fish Happy Meal, and it unlocks in your app that bonus footage, a full bonus episode that will launch with the new thing. They could drive 1 million people into a McDonald's this weekend to buy a Happy Meal.
We are standing on the very precipice. Like there's a whole world of these levels of deep integrations that are right over the horizon. I mean, this is what everybody's working on right now. They're just sitting around the table.
Work faster and harder. Let's go.
It's the first round of like, what can we do tying all this stuff together? So that's right now. And then by next year, 2024, we're going to start seeing very weird, creative, interesting, deep integrations of all of these kinds of things. I think of a kind we've never really seen before because just as you said,
the competition is hot.
It's everybody's got these apps on their phones and they're at your home in your they're everywhere you are. They're on your laptop. They're wherever you're going. And all of these networks and media companies know that. And these deep integrations of, oh, you're at this place. We've got this deal at this place because you watched this thing. Exactly.
3 lessons.
Yes.
Raise your prices. Innovate. Engage. This is what great product and founders, CEOs do. Raise those prices. You want to innovate and you want to increase engagement. Not
those
ad
two
users,
have to go together, those first two. Though.
The last
you can't
thing
just do the one thing without the other thing. Because
we've talked about this entirely in terms of Disney Plus, but bear in mind, Hulu, ESPN Plus, they're the same. It's basically, from Disney's perspective, it's all one thing. So it's the same with all your Hulu shows. It's the same with all your streams on ESPN Plus, whatever sports you're into. Like, they're going to know all of that as well.
Speaking of sports, according to Wall Street Journal sources, Netflix is looking into getting into live sports, which is something that I think people have been after them to do for a long time. Netflix has been bidding on streaming rights for live sports. Talk about an area that's getting more and more competitive, though. They have that bidding has included the UK rights to the Women's Tennis Association and cycling competitions, France and UK rights for ATP tennis and F1 racing. And last year, Netflix was actually in talks to buy the World Surf League, but talks fell through over price. Other big tech streamers, of course, have been investing in live sports recently. Amazon spent that $11 billion for an 11-year Thursday Night Football deal. I know at least one person who canceled cable over that. Just like now, I mean, if sports was the thing that was keeping a lot of people in their cable bundles, we have reached a tipping point now. I think Apple paid $85 million or pays $85 million a year for its MLB Friday Night Baseball deal. And then, of course, Apple and Amazon both rumored to be in the bidding war for NFL Sunday Ticket.
Yeah, and like that's we're kind of the last big one to fall is like Sunday Ticket, and once that's figured out, basically almost all the major sports have kind of figured out their streaming plans, and we're just left with the stragglers and the last second ones. And yeah, I mean, Netflix kind of waited a really long time. I feel like they might have waited a little too long, and now they've gotten outbid. And what's left? I mean, I don't even, World Surf League, great, but that's not appointment viewing in the way that baseball and football and soccer games are for people.
What's up with NBA? Like, why not? Why not?
NBA,
why is nobody bidding on NBA? Like Netflix,
no, they're going,
take NBA, do that.
That's going to be starting.
Yeah, it's the next big package that comes up. I think 2024 or something will be NBA.
Yeah, a couple of years out.
Right. It's just
Right.
when it comes up for auction next, it'll be on the.
And they say that's going to be like the big one.
That'll be a massive.
They're saying player salaries are going to get upwards of like 80 million a year at Molly. So this whole like 30, 40, 50 million a year, like super packages, people do 5 years for 40, they get 200 million, like we saw those $200 million deals. You're like, whoa. Now imagine 80 million times 5, 400. These people are going to be getting a $500 million deals as an all-star player in the league. That's the rumor, is that deal will double it. The NBA really was working NBA League Pass in a big way. So I've been paying for NBA League Pass for 6 or 7 years as a Knicks fan, not living in New York anymore, just because I want the ease of it. So they have a two-pronged strategy: sell the stuff to networks, TNT, ABC, NBC, and let you buy direct. So it's very interesting. If you buy NBA League Pass, I get the local MSG feed. And when it's commercials, I pay Molly to not have commercials. And I see them doing like the local Kia Sorrento, half-court shot. Like they don't put commercials in. You get to see like what's going on in the arena, which to me just makes it like some really cool throwback. But that's going to be a major one. I think the NBA one is, right after the NFL one is going to be huge. You get the kiss cam going, when they do the kiss cam. Well, they always do it like, it's like, like me and Lon are sitting next to each other. And like, we're like, no. Then we like pretend we're going to kiss. And then they widen the shot and our girlfriends are on the other, or wives are on the other side.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we try to get those memeable moments on your streaming network.
They know how to go viral with the kiss cam. Yeah.
I'm telling you, the literal best thing I've ever seen at an NBA game ever was baby racing. Ever in my entire life at a Cleveland Cavaliers game in Cleveland, baby racing. Like, put that stuff on Netflix, people will pay extra.
I saw that. I just thought, the electric prod was a little too much for me with the baby racing. Like, just let them organically do it. You don't need to shock
They don't remember.
Andor style.
That's right. They're not making new memories yet. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And good point in our notes too, which is that once you go ad-based, like with Netflix rolling out an advertising tier, you got to get some sports in there, because that is one of the few things that advertisers still really, really want to pay for. Sports.
They love live.
They love live. Yeah.
Big thing.
Perfect synergy.
All right. Anything left in streaming, or is Lon dismissed?
Lon is dismissed.
That's the big stuff.
With love.
I think, of course. I understand.
Lon? We didn't even talk about the peripheral, though. Watch the dang peripheral.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying the peripheral. And amazingly, it is so complicated, but it's never confusing. Like, I don't ever feel like, even because it's the producers of Westworld, but even I feel it feels even more streamlined than Westworld. I never have that moment of like, wait, who was that guy and who does that guy work for? Like, they're doing a very good job of keeping all these different timelines and all these various characters kind of clear.
Is impressive. As somebody who read the book, I can tell you, like, that is a hard task, because
it's complex, but not confusing.
Right, you're always able to tell who's who and where they're, like, what the mission is and where they're going and what the goal is. But when you really step back and think about this world, it's a very elaborate sci-fi premise. I mean, it's William Gibson, so it's very like, it's got that neuromancer sort of complexity.
Check it out. The number one obvious choice for the weekend in terms of media consumption, and then give us one deep pull, and then you are dismissed, sir.
Okay. Well,
what's the obvious choice this weekend? What's everybody going to go do? What's everybody looking forward to in the next week or so? And then what's a deep pull?
I think, a big thing I would recommend that's been out there for a week or so that anybody can watch because it's on Roku is Weird, the Weird Al Yankovic biopic. Very funny. Not what you're expecting. Very well done. Daniel Radcliffe stars as Weird Al.
What?
You've got
Harry Potter's Weird Al?
Daniel Radcliffe stars as Weird Al. Evan Rachel Wood plays Madonna. Rainn Wilson is Dr. Demento. It's done like it's both a
Dr. Demento, the radio guy?
Yeah, it's both a real biopic about Weird Al's actual career and rise to fame, but also like a walk hard parody of Bohemian Rhapsody and Walk the Line and those kinds of movies.
I can't wait.
It invents stuff about his life and career, but also tells like the real kinds of story. It's
so like a Pee Wee Herman type thing. Yeah, like
and Jorma Taccone from Lonely Island plays Pee Wee Herman in the movie. Pee Wee Herman in the film.
Pee Wee makes a cameo?
There's lots of that. Quinta Brunson plays Oprah Winfrey. There's a lot of like people playing 80s celebrities working into the movie. That's fantastic. I really liked that. The other thing that's coming up this weekend that is a high profile, on Sunday night, Tulsa King debuts on Paramount Plus. That's the new Taylor Sheridan show starring Sylvester Stallone. Sylvester Stallone's first major TV role ever in history. And it was co-produced by Taylor Sheridan, who does Yellowstone, but also Terrence Winter from Boardwalk Empire and The Sopranos wrote and is the showrunner on this bad boy.
What? So, Boardwalk Empire Sopranos person is doing a show.
Terrence Winter co-created this show with Taylor Sheridan, and it is Sylvester Stallone plays a New York mafia don or capo who got out of prison after like a 20-year prison sentence, and his boss sends him to Tulsa, like move to Tulsa and start a new crew for us in Tulsa, Oklahoma. So it's Sly as this like old New York gangster trying to start a new...
What time period? 80s, 90s, 70s today?
I think it's present day. I believe it's set in the present day.
Whoa. So he's going to have a smartphone, maybe.
He's going to have a smartphone, but it's like he's got to start a crew. And then, there's not a mafia presence in Tulsa, but there's all sorts of like freelance, people just doing crime. So it's like he's got to organize these guys. And it looks really fun. Well done. And that's coming on Paramount Plus. It just doesn't do a good job of promoting their stuff.
Twitter.com/Lons, LONS. He's on the Twitter. Verified account.
No blue check yet, but maybe I'll pay my $8.
I had the blue check. I got you the blue check back in the day.
I never had a blue check. I
thought I made that call for you. Okay. My bad. I'll see what I can do.
One day.
You have $8. So good luck, Lon. And we'll see you next Thursday. Always national treasure. Lon Harris. The national treasure. You're going to get enough Lon here. Inside.com/streaming. He does a newsletter for me too.
Lon's awesome.
Just I love that guy.
His Twitter feed is a damn delight.
All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. It's Thursday. What a long couple of weeks it's been for all of us. Stock market's roaring back. Companies are crashing and burning like FTX. And the wheel keeps on spinning. And if the wheel is going to keep on spinning, we're going to be here with you every day. Molly, myself, Rachel reporting, Lon Harris, producer Nick, all of the cast of characters here on This Week in Startups to break down the news with you. If you have ideas for topics or things you want us to address, on Twitter, we're TWI Startups, or you can email producers at thisweekinstartups.com. Goes to the whole crew. So tell us who you want on the program, ideas you have, topics you want us to cover. And there's still 2 days left in this week. So tomorrow, Friday, we got a great show for you. And then Sunday, we do VC Sunday School and Climate. Tell your friends about This Week in Startups. And go to youtube.com/thisweekin. Sign up, hit the bell. You'll know when we go live to randomly talk about breaking news stories. Okay, that's it for us on a Thursday. I'll see you tomorrow, Friday. Bye-bye.